Hello everyone, my name is Drew Nichols, and I just got done spending about 9 years in the military in 2023. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. It's one of the things that I know best. Here's what we're going to start off talking about. USA Facts reports that about 0.59% of the eligible members of our society actually join and perform time in the military. Now, it's a tall task. Anyone who's in here might know, seeing as how 100% of us have actually spent time in the military. It's a hard thing to do, and that's understandable. As noted by Jim Banks at the hearing before the Subcommittee of Military Personnel, when it comes to joining the military, all of the organizations, all of the branches I should say, are actually having trouble with recruiting. They are currently missing their mark. In 2023, it happened by about 41,000 members across all of the branches. The Army specifically having the worst end of the deal at missing by 15,000 members. That means they're about 15,000 members short by the end of that year compared to what they originally planned starting in. So I don't know, maybe that leads to logistic problems down the line. Who knows? It's not. I can't see it firsthand because I was in the Navy. I wasn't in the Army, but I can only imagine, right? In the Navy, there were lots of times where you could feel the shortage of members that we had. I remember specifically, it was 2019, and I was told that I wasn't allowed to take leave for Christmas because I was one of the only people who could do the job that I was able to do on the ship. And as we know in the military, sometimes that's the case. You get stuck having to do things because the lack of people around you that can actually help and do the same thing. It's something that we experience, and it's not a good thing. It's something that service members have to deal with constantly, right? Standing watch on multiple days in a row. I don't know if everyone here knows what standing watch is, but essentially there's periods of time in the Navy where you cannot leave the ship, right? You're on duty. And typically this is a 24-hour period of time, and then you get to leave. And you still come in to do work in the days in between, but on that day you have to spend 24 hours straight. So the problem with that and having to do 2 or 3 days in a row because nobody else can do the things that you have to do is that means the entire time that you are on duty or having to perform in this role, you are on the ship. And that can lead to some mental health problems, but that's probably a story for another time. We're not here to talk about all of the mental health issues. So the lack of hands that are provided to the U.S. military through this lack of willingness of people to join starts to create an issue of national defense, right? Because if you don't have the people or the assets to perform in these positions, then you might end up behind a competitor, somebody like, a country such as maybe Russia or China, who China actually recently has been, I think last year they produced 4 cruisers. Yes, as reported by Naval News, China produced 4 cruisers and manned them all within a year. This is more than the US is able to do with a single destroyer in 2 years. So we have issues that are starting to unfold if you look at it from that point of view. But I'd like to open the floor to any questions that people might have about the manning of our military that they might have for me, any research that I've done recently. Yes? Yes?
Do you know of any of the, like if they're changing any of the requirements to enlist because of this?
Yes. So, as of recent, the requirements that have changed are, starting next year, I believe, there will no longer be, in the Navy at least, this is not true of the other branches, but the Navy has implemented that people will no longer be getting kicked out of the military for failed BCA requirements. I've also found that, BCA requirements is your body mass index. Essentially, you have to stay below a certain body fat percentage and be able to run in the exercise a certain amount. So if you cannot do this successfully, then you will be allowed to stay in the Navy, which is different from how it has been before and all of the other military branches. Are there any other questions? Yes?
Do you think that if the recruitment keeps failing to meet the standards, do you think that they could institute a draft?
Do I think that they could institute a draft? I think that they could definitely institute a draft. I think that with a draft might open a little, some people will kind of get that mentality of why me, right? Like, why do I get chosen, right? I don't know that a draft is the exact right answer, but I do know that there are issues that need to be addressed, and we'll have to figure out the best way to do that. I personally have my own ways that I would deal with it, but that's for the future. Any other questions? No? All right, thank you.